Hi, good morning, everyone. Captain Mark Muir of the Rochester Police Department. As we sent out in the media invite, today we're going to announce mandatory training and an annual award. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Chief Herriott-Sullivan.
Thank you, Captain Muir. So, great to see you all again. It's been a long time. No, thanks for coming yesterday, because I know we took a few minutes to get you what time, but you know how it is in this business. Nothing's exact. So, I wanted you to join us here today. I want to talk about the future of policing in Rochester. I agreed to accept the role as interim chief to make real systemic change. And that is still my goal. That's our goal. Our job as officers is to protect and to serve, and I'm committed to ensuring continuous improvement and partnering with community leaders and experts to make progress on these initiatives and our reforms. Congresswoman, U.S. Congresswoman Val Demings, I've known for a while, since she was chief in Orlando, and I consider her a friend. And we spoke last week, and she recently talked about how when she was chief, she prayed daily that her officers out there on the streets having to make split-second decisions would be able to respond as they were trained to do. And certainly that's my prayer as well, and all of ours on staff here. And that also, while they're doing this, the policies that we train our people in, that we implement and train our people in, they're going to be using them at those very moments. We pray for that. But this is what reform is all about, I believe. We need to ensure that we have current policies and training that's reviewed and updated frequently and are proven to be effective. So when our officers have the skills and knowledge to do the right thing, and then even when they don't, because we're no different than any organization, that happens sometimes, that they're going to have the right tools and the best practices in place to address things quickly and appropriately. So I want to share a little bit about the progress we've made on police reform here at RPD over the past 6 months. And also what we have planned as part of this ongoing initiative. So we've recently implementing a few things, and I'm going to share those with you. Our officer workshop on reimagining RPD. In March, we had a vertical team of staff that of 30, and where a meeting was held to start looking at how we can bridge the gap between the community's expectations and the service we provide as men and women of the Rochester Police Department. We also, as you know, launched a bi-weekly Chiefs briefing on our website, and this is to keep the community and our local media updated on key initiatives and things that we're working on. Something else we've done is the eviction response on behalf of the police department. And this was put into place to ensure that the new rules that had come out for New York were properly followed and implemented, but also to be clear about the role of our PD officers in that and to minimize it as much as possible. What we did do on top of that also is to make sure our officers had information that they could pass on to people who were affected by an eviction situation. We also looked at policy. As you know, we've been rolling out several policies, the critical ones that we wanted to get out as soon as possible. And in those areas are duty to intervene, banning chokeholds, mental hygiene, detention, juvenile detention rules, and then de-escalation. And what we're also doing is in the process of conducting a listening tour. We're reaching out to different experts at our local area nonprofits, citizens, community leaders, And we want to gain insights into behavioral and mental health issues, pediatric involved responses, domestic violence, race relations, and then crisis intervention. These are all things that are really important and critical to us, and we want to get as much updated information on it as possible. So, the conviction of Herriott-Sullivan in the murder of George Floyd reinforced last week that accountability in policing and policing reform has to be a top priority. It must be. This verdict was an important step forward, but it needs to be followed by meaningful action. It's an expected part of the job by me, the RPD leadership, and the community we serve. Now, I talked a few minutes ago in my earlier remarks about officers having the tools to respond appropriately in the moment and be able to reward those who do and to hold those who don't accountable. Now, with that in mind, I'm really proud to announce our mandatory officer training program, and we're calling it the Robert E. Craig Institute for Ethical Leadership. Now, Executive Deputy Chief Anderson has worked quite a bit on this. I want to thank him for just taking this project that's very dear to me and running with it. But I'm going to have him come up and talk to you a little bit about it. Edie?
Well, good morning, and I appreciate the chief giving me some congratulatories for working on this training. However, I will tell you that it's really been many of the women and men of our police department, primarily Commander Elena Correa, who's been leading these efforts, and so I would have to say that she's taken on a bulk of this and done a fantastic job. But I want to thank the chief for helping or actually having us put this leadership program together. You know, leadership has many different definitions. Yet an American author we all know as John Maxwell describes a leader as someone who knows the way and someone who shows the way. And quite frankly, this quote captures the essence of what the Robert E. Craig Institute for Ethical Leadership will accomplish. Now, this two-day training will introduce a panel of distinguished guests, and they will talk about the future of policing. They will talk about the future of leadership. They will talk about community policing. And more importantly, they're going to talk about how we forge positive relationships here in Rochester. We will focus on how important it is for our police officers to have the proper mindset regularly. It's critical because we know that in order for us to recognize that our officers deal with the rigors and concerns that they deal with tragedy on a regular basis, we know that oftentimes and many times they may have some form of compassion fatigue. And through awareness and identifying and building, we can help with the coping skills necessary to allow our public safety police officers to perform well in the community. But the training will also include how we understand the adolescent brain, the young people we come into contact with on a regular basis. It's critical for our officers to gain insight on how to deal with youth and how to better understand how we can carve out a proper response to them as well as their parents so that we can build both trust and legitimacy. Among many other items, we want to recognize when our officers observe firsthand excited delirium. We want to make sure that we have our officers trained well to respond to it. So our strategies and training will also involve our response to mental illness. Yet a key highlight will be the delivery from our keynote speaker, who was the 82nd United States Attorney General, Eric Holder. Now, many of you may know of Attorney General Eric Holder. He has been described as one of the greatest, most visionary lawyers over the past 30 years. And he has great insight. His insights surrounding criminal justice reform, his connections to policing, and race relations, and many other things will set the stage for our future. But lastly, I was asked to define the Robert E. Craig Leadership Award and also to explain why it's important. So this award, it represents a police leader who demonstrates integrity. It represents a leader who has organizational courage. A leader, while always recognizing what's best for the organization. And let me say again, a leader that recognizes what is best for the organization also adopts police excellence through community policing. Now, it is believed that everything embodied in this training that we'll have will reflect the Robert E. Craig Award. And he will be the first recipient of this leadership award. Now, this award is vital. It's vital because it's reminiscent of our fine and fantastic police officers of the past. We're recognizing retired Deputy Police Chief Robert E. Craig, who is an unblemished memory of the Rochester Police Department's professional excellence. His approach to policing remains an integral ingredient to law enforcement today, as it was in the past. He is a true leader, and he does know the way, and he goes the way. And our retired Deputy Police Chief Craig has also shown many others the way. As evidence of that, one example is our police chief, Herriott-Sullivan, who is a product of his mentoring. And with that, I'll bring up the chief again.
Thank you, EDC. So I just wanted to share with you some brief comments on how the former deputy chief and I got to know each other. He had stepped into his role as deputy chief around the time that one of our past police chiefs had gotten into some legal trouble. And so the department certainly was in the need of strong leadership, but what's memorable about him is he was a strong leader, also very ethical, clearly cared about people. Several officers of color and I in the department, you know, we were having a conversation about him one day, and we just, and this was years ago, but we pointed out that he treated everybody the same. You couldn't tell with regard to race or gender. He just respected everybody. And I still remember one of the comments he told me a long time ago is that he said, we can't ever forget that at the end of all of our decisions and the things we do, that there are people involved, real people. And we always have to remember that. Now, that doesn't mean that you weren't afraid if you were on the other side of the desk and you'd done something wrong. But he may have to, you know, take you to task, but he left you with your dignity, and then you were expected to go out and get your job done, and there wouldn't be a repeat of that conversation he had to have with you. So he did that for so many people. When I decided to take the sergeant's test, he volunteered, took the time to just sit down with me and coach me. And one of the things he really did that I think made all the difference to me was that he spent a lot of time in my mindset, encouraging my willingness, courage to you know, go after that, to understand what it means that when you step into that role, what's expected out of you, but he just really built my confidence. And yeah, I mean, I was willing to work hard as well, and I did. And when I took that exam, I was #1 on the sergeant's list. But I know I had a role in getting the work done, but if I wasn't confident to the level I was, and I would attribute quite a bit of that to him, I think I may not have had the same results. So speed forward, and you know, I get selected as or asked to be interim chief, and I'm sitting in my office and you know, sitting behind that huge desk trying to figure out what my next move was. And one of the things I do is I'm going through the mail and I open it, and there's this letter from Robert Craig. First of all, congratulating me, telling me how much he knows I'm more than up to the job. And then his second comment was, you know, let me know how I can help. And that was just the kind of person he still is today. You know that, you know, we've been going through a lot here as an organization. There's no shortage on criticism. But I will remember on slideshow like format the people who said, you know, I don't like what's going on, but you know, what can I do? And his was the first to step up and do that. And that's something else I'm going to add to the list of things I'll never forget. So what I would like to do is invite him to come up. We named this training after him because he embodies what it's about. And he literally helped us plan the training format. I mean, he put a lot of work in it. That's another thing I love about him. When he says, how can I help, he means it. He's going to help, and he'll roll his sleeve up and be willing to work and do what needs to be done. And he certainly did that in this case as well. So when I asked him to, or told him that we wanted to name the award after him, you know, he was modest and saying, well, and then, you know, once we convinced him why we wanted to do that, he was more than humble about it. So our recipient, the first recipient of this award is understandably, of course, Mr. Robert E. Craig, former Deputy Chief of the Rochester Police Department. And I would love it if you would come up and make some comments, sir. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Thank you, Executive Deputy Chief, for your kind comments, and certainly Chief Herriott-Sullivan for naming an institute like that after me. I'm really at a loss for words. It was extremely humbling, still is. Moving on. I'd like to tell you a little bit about this Executive Development Institute that we put together. It turns out that the Chief and I have a shared vision on leadership and its value within an organization. And there are many definitions. I'm not going to get into definitions of leadership. We all have heard them before. But we wanted to create an opportunity for people within an organization, the Rochester Police Department, to develop its own personnel for the challenges in the future. That we're actually cultivating homegrown, our own future leaders of the organization. And as it happened while doing the research, we found the National Commission on Policing, on Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Administration was in draft form in November. And we looked at it. We said, it meets everything that we're looking at. So we're going to take that skeleton, if you will. There's 15 recommended courses. We're going to take those and build on them. And then we also have enough others of our own that we want in addition to it. So we're looking at about 20-some courses. So it's not just that 2-day event that's coming up in a couple weeks. People that get into this course, none of the courses are easy. There's things like an instructor development course. It's one of the toughest courses people can take. It's 2 weeks long. It's certified by people in Albany. We envision putting our people into that right away, because we want to, instead of having people go away for training, we want that training in-house. There's no going away and possibly bringing it back or not bringing it back. It's here. That's not going to stop trips, obviously. But we have, and we want to bring our community into it. We value our community. We know what our community brings to it. I'm a local guy. I've got about 40 years in the neighborhood. I'm urban by choice, and I'm very proud to be retired from the police department. There's two reasons that I remain in the city. The first one is my police department. The second is my fire department. The service that we get is absolutely outstanding. But we also need to look at, we know how to do policing, but we need to look at a couple of things. And one of the first would be, what's our mission? What's the business we're in? Who are the customers we are trying to serve? And most important, and to never forget, is to always ask, what does it feel like to be a consumer of our services? And we want to make changes. Not many people join the police department because of parking complaints or loud parties, but we'll be taking people and taking them a little bit further. We'll be taking people and taking them a little bit further through what this involves. We have to think these things through. What's the impact? Why is the community member calling us? What's it like for us if we're trying to sleep, we only get a couple hours sleep in and there's a loud party. You get up the next day and there's a mess out front and you've got to go to work and you're tired. Your children might have exams. They might be taking scholarship exams. And if they're not getting it, this impacts a lot of people. Number one, it's wrong. But instead of, you don't want to have repeated calls. We want people to get used to solving that problem and helping others. In terms of helping each other, there is a FBI National Academy. It's a 3-month leadership and development school. It's in Quantico, Virginia. It's strictly leadership. People come in anybody in the free world will come there. When they leave, they're a member of the association, and if there's regional or local training, state training, or national training, they're encouraged to get involved in it and support it and continue to make that group. I'm going to owe somebody a lot of money here, breaking their microphones. But lost my train of thought. I get it. But go back, when we get done in our agency, we're going to stay right here and train our own people. And our people have gone those instructor development courses. They will adjust other courses we have so that we have new and current data that we're training on. We will also engage the community. We know we have a partnership with the community, and we've got a good one. When you look at the percentage of where the problems are in the police department, they're small and they're doable to take care of. But overall, this department enjoys a good reputation in the community. But by being local, once they finish these courses, they're going to continue to deliver others. We're looking for them to develop a social and educational fraternity so that this keeps this thing moving forward. We're talking about 20-some courses, so this isn't something that somebody's going to get after a 2-day or a 7-day seminar. So it will continue to go on. I think I'm done before I break anything else. Other than say, thanks, Chief, you have absolutely no idea what this feels like. And it was an absolute pleasure to work with these two and others. Tom Shaw's in the room, Frank Camp's in the room. This was not a 2 or 3 person job, and again, it's going to continue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief. And see, I told you, he dived right in and helped get the work done. So I think we got 5 minutes for questions. Is that what we're doing?
It seems like it's the first time. Go ahead, Jen.
Can I just start with one of the things that you just mentioned about we want police to get used to solving the problem before they leave. Can you talk about what realistically that would look like? How would calls change?
You want me or you want
either one of you? Yeah.
No, ED, you may want to jump in too. I can share with you that as we work through this this process and training, when the deputy chief would contact me, he always had a solution or a response. He would tell me what the issue was and he had a response. And that's exactly what we mean, is that to the extent it's within your power, that you know how to be a problem solver and you're aware of what your resources are, can you get to the heart of the problem, address it, and then what you're advising us of is, here's the problem I identified, here's the solution. And whatever the follow-up is, we'll monitor it for a few weeks and then come back and revisit it and see how our progress is. Because we did some work, and the ED did, in leading a Sarah model training on that. So I hope that answers
This is
your
the
question.
first time you guys have mentioned excited delirium as a policy. So can you outline how that is now something that's going to be looked at, how officers are going to be trained in that? And also, I mean, it seems like it's something that's on tenuous medical ground to begin with, so why is it something that you guys are choosing to recognize?
I'm going to invite the ED to come up and talk about it, but we're rolling out new policies, per se, that address how we handle certain problems. Well, we don't have an excited delirium policy, though. You want to come in and make some comments?
Sure.
So specifically, as the chief talked about, there isn't a excited delirium policy, but we do have a response with respect to when we see individuals that exemplify, or actually when we can tell that they may be suffering from what appears to be excited delirium. And that's what's important. What's important is the officers can detect it, they can see it, they can respond, and they can get the medical attention the person needs relatively quickly, and that's what we want.
Is this
I have a
anyway?
question about exactly how this program is going to roll out. You mentioned, it seems like a lot of generalities. What exactly will this look like? What's the timeline? Is RIT involved in this? Is this mandatory? I mean, how exactly will this work, and how exactly will this be benefiting the public?
Well, first, I want to stress that when we have the training that's going to take place in a few weeks, you're going to all have an opportunity to come in and film a bit on site for when AG Holder speaks to the group, and then we have some other law enforcement experts and leaders that are going to work with us as well. So, you know, we're talking about the Leadership Institute, but then we're also talking about building leadership skills in our staff. So we're hard at work. We've got our whole program together. It's ready to go, and then what'll happen is, as we work with our people, as they are either new to leadership roles, or it's a revisit on some of the best practices. I mean, those are the things we're going to work on. So now we're working with different colleges. Some of our people we're going to be working with are from the U of R, some from RIT. So I mean, we're going across the board. Oh, now it's my turn. We're going across the board as far as our you know, bringing in experts that are knowledgeable on the things that we want to learn about.
Is this curriculum or itinerary posted someplace that the public can see? It all seems very theoretical right now, and sorry if I'm the only idiot in the room, but I'm trying to figure out what exactly is going to happen, when it's going to happen, the mandatory part of this, and how people, we talk about the community, are going to be able to benefit from this. So right now I'm just hearing generalities. Is there some place that I or the public can go to see the specifics of this, what it's going to look like, smell like, taste like, feel like?
Well, no, we're not ready to post our full curriculum on a website somewhere. But granted, certainly, as we've done with the Department of Department of Criminal Justice for the county, you're going to be able to see their training schedule, but not necessarily each class curriculum. But there's a built-out curriculum on it. The deputy chief had mentioned that. But we reserve the right to tweak some things and kind of make some changes to it before we put out. So we're aiming at transparency to let the public know what's coming, what we're working on. But I think we've shown, and then we'll continue to show, that to the extent that we can share something, we will, certainly. So just keep watching, so we'll put it out there. Thanks, everybody.
So again, thanks for coming on short notice, as well as don't forget to leave with a program. Thank you very much.